A 23-year-old man marries a 75-year-old woman for money, but what he learns changes his life forever. But before that, consider subscribing to the channel so we can keep sharing amazing stories. Jake, a 23-year-old young man from Chicago, only knows life from its harsh side. Growing up in a household where every cent had to be turned over twice, he learned early what it means to struggle through. His family lived in one of the poorest districts of the city, and his childhood was marked by deprivation and the constant struggle of his parents to make ends meet. These experiences shaped his character and ignited a deep desire for financial security and wealth. One day, Jake stumbles upon a newspaper headline that immediately piques his interest. The headline reports on Marilyn, a 75-year-old widow and well-known philanthropist whose fortune is estimated to be worth several million. Marilyn, who lives alone in a splendid villa on the outskirts of the city after the death of her husband, is known for her generous donations to various charities. Jake, who has always longed for a better future, sees in this encounter an opportunity that could change his life. His curiosity is aroused, and he begins to gather information about Marilyn and her charitable work. At this stage in his life, where he lives every day with the uncertainty of how to pay his bills, Marilyn appears like a light at the end of a long, dark tunnel. But how will he approach her? How will he attract her attention? These questions begin to circle in his head as he devises plans to enter her world. As Jake arrived at the illustrious Chicago Art Gallery, the evening air was crisp, the sounds of a string quartet drifting through the grand entrance doors. He paused briefly, taking in the opulence of the venue adorned with twinkling lights and vibrant artwork that lined the marble walls. The event was bustling with the city's elite, their voices a blend of excitement and affluence as they admired the displayed art pieces. Dressed in a sharply tailored suit, Jake made his way through the crowd, his posture confident, yet his mind racing with anticipation. He observed the attendees, noting the influential figures he recognized from the society pages. He had done his homework, understanding that to blend in, he needed not just to look the part but also to engage meaningfully. When Marilyn made her entrance, she was a vision of grace, her silver hair styled perfectly, her gown simple yet elegant. She was greeted warmly by many, her reputation as a benefactor and matriarch of the arts community preceding her. Jake watched from a distance initially, studying her interactions, noting her genuine smiles and the respectful attention she commanded. Seizing an opportune moment, Jake approached Marilyn during a lull in her conversations. With a respectful nod, he introduced himself. "Ms. Marilyn, I'm Jake. I've been an admirer of your work with the Foundation for some time. It's an honor to meet you." Jake spoke of his theoretical interest in art and philanthropy, carefully weaving a narrative that portrayed him as a thoughtful, aspiring patron. Marilyn, ever the discerning conversationalist, listened intently, occasionally interjecting with insightful questions that drew Jake out further. They discussed her recent projects and the impact of the arts on community development. As they conversed, the ambient light cast soft shadows around them, the murmur of the crowd a distant hum. Marilyn's demeanor suggested a woman who had seen much, her insights deep and occasionally tinged with a wistfulness that intrigued Jake. He found himself momentarily forgetting his ulterior motives, caught up in the genuine warmth of their dialogue. As the event neared its end, Jake knew he had made an impression. "I would love to continue this conversation over coffee sometime, if you'd be interested," he ventured, hoping his forwardness didn't seem presumptuous. Marilyn smiled, a hint of surprise in her expression. "That sounds lovely, Jake. Let's plan for that. It's refreshing to meet someone so young, with such a keen interest." He had initiated what he hoped would be a profitable connection, yet the evening had offered him a glimpse into a world and a person far more complex and enriching than he had anticipated. Over the following weeks, Jake and Marilyn's relationship deepened. Their initial coffee meeting extended into long walks through Chicago's botanical gardens, where they shared stories and laughter under the sprawling canopies. Marilyn, often reserved, began to open up more about her life, her late husband, and her journey in philanthropy. Jake learned that Marilyn had started her charitable foundation in her late 40s after her husband's sudden passing. Her passion for helping others was not just a pastime, but a profound commitment to making a difference. She spoke of her travels to various countries, her efforts to support education for underprivileged children, and her recent initiative to fund local artists. Jake, listening intently, found himself genuinely captivated by her stories, her dedication stirring something unexpected within him. As autumn turned to winter, their meetings became more frequent. Jake was invited to Marilyn's home, a tasteful estate surrounded by serene gardens that were her pride and joy. He was introduced to her close circle of friends during small gatherings where discussions often revolved around art, culture, and community service. Marilyn appreciated Jake's youthful energy and fresh perspectives, finding his company increasingly delightful. One evening, as they sat by the fireplace in Marilyn's living room, surrounded by the soft glow of firelight, Jake brought up a charity event he was interested in initiating. Marilyn listened, her eyes reflecting the flames, and then offered to help him refine his ideas. Their collaboration on the project brought them closer, their meetings now filled with a shared purpose and mutual respect. During these moments, Jake's initial motive of seeking wealth seemed to blur into something more complex. He found himself admiring Marilyn not just for her wealth, but for her spirit and kindness. The realization dawned on him slowly, challenging his preconceived plans and stirring a sense of guilt about his initial intentions. As winter gave way to spring, their bond had solidified into a companionship that spanned beyond mere acquaintance. Marilyn had become not only a mentor to Jake, but also a dear friend. Her stories of love, loss, and resilience echoed in his mind, reshaping his understanding of wealth and success. Despite the significant age difference, their relationship was enriched by deep conversations and shared laughter, the warmth between them genuine and increasingly evident to all around them. As spring blossomed into summer, the relationship between Jake and Marilyn reached a point of unspoken depth and understanding. Jake, whose heart had undergone an unexpected transformation, found himself contemplating a future that was inseparably linked with Marilyn. It was during an evening at a charity gala, under the soft lights and melodies of a live orchestra, that Jake decided to propose. The venue was adorned with elegant decor, and Marilyn was in her element, gracefully navigating through guests and friends, her laughter brightening the room. Jake, dressed in a classic black tuxedo, watched her with a mix of admiration and nerves. As the evening wound down, he suggested a walk in the garden attached to the venue, a place Marilyn loved for its tranquility and beauty. Under the starlit sky, amidst the scent of blooming roses, Jake took Marilyn's hand. His voice, filled with genuine emotion, broke the gentle hum of the night. "Marilyn, these past months have been the most profound of my life. You've shown me worlds of kindness and strength I never knew existed. I can't imagine a future that doesn't have you in it. Will you marry me?" After a moment of thoughtful silence, she replied with a gentle smile, "Yes, Jake, I will marry you." The decision, made amidst the roses under the canopy of stars, was a testament to the genuine bond they had formed, transcending any initial intentions. The wedding, set for the fall, was nothing short of spectacular. Held at one of Chicago's most prestigious venues, it was the talk of the high society. Lavish decorations, exquisite floral arrangements, and a guest list that read like a who's who of the city's elite made the event a grand affair. Marilyn, radiant in a designer gown that was both elegant and age-appropriate, moved through the event with grace. Jake, standing beside her, felt a complex mix of accomplishment and reflection. The ceremony itself was a blend of traditional and personal touches. They exchanged vows under a beautifully adorned arch, their voices steady but filled with emotion. As they turned to face the assembly, the applause was thunderous, a celebration of love that many had come to admire. As the night progressed, the new couple shared dances, laughter, and stories with their guests. The air was filled with joy and celebration, but for Jake, each congratulation was a reminder of the journey that had brought him here, an unexpected path that had led to love, but also to a deeper understanding of himself and his values. As the celebration continued around them, Jake felt a sense of arrival, not just at a point of achieving wealth, but at a new beginning of living with true purpose and connection. Now residing in the grandeur of Marilyn's mansion, a sprawling estate with lush gardens and ornate halls, Jake's life took a turn that he hadn't quite anticipated. The initial awe of his new living situation gradually gave way to a routine that involved much more than the opulence around him. Marilyn, ever passionate about her philanthropic endeavors, introduced Jake to the intricate workings of her foundation. As the weeks unfolded, Jake found himself accompanying Marilyn to various board meetings, where decisions about grants and charitable programs were made. He observed her interaction with the team, her respect for their opinions, and her decisive nature when it came to big decisions. Marilyn's commitment was contagious, and Jake, who had once viewed this life as merely a means to financial security, found himself genuinely interested in the projects. One particular project that caught Jake's attention was a community center they were funding in a struggling neighborhood of Chicago. Jake proposed a visit to the site, and together with Marilyn, they toured the facility, meeting with the staff and some of the people whose lives were being transformed by the center. Seeing the tangible impact of their work, the gratitude in the eyes of a young mother who had found job training at the center, or the joy of children playing in a safe environment, left a profound impression on him. Inspired by this visit, Jake began to take a more active role in the foundation. He spearheaded a new initiative aimed at providing tech education to underprivileged youth, combining his understanding of the modern workforce with the foundation's resources. Marilyn supported his ideas enthusiastically, pleased to see him embracing their shared mission. Their evenings were often spent in quiet discussion about the day's work or planning for future projects. The mansion, with its vast rooms and historical artifacts, felt less like a museum and more like a home with each passing day. Their relationship, rooted in partnership and mutual respect, grew stronger as they worked towards common goals. Marilyn occasionally shared stories from her earlier years of philanthropy, subtly guiding Jake through the complexities of managing a nonprofit. She was impressed with his fresh ideas and the new energy he brought to the foundation. Living and working together in this way, Jake experienced a side of life he had never known, one where wealth was not just a means to an end, but a tool for making a real difference. The fulfillment he found in this work was unexpected, changing his perceptions and aspirations in ways he couldn't have imagined before meeting Marilyn. One serene evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the lush gardens of the estate, Marilyn and Jake took a leisurely walk along the paths lined with blooming flowers and ancient oaks. It was during these quiet moments that Marilyn felt compelled to share more deeply about her past, a past filled with both remarkable achievements and profound losses. As they settled onto a bench overlooking a small, tranquil pond, Marilyn began recounting her early years. She spoke of growing up in a modest family where resources were scarce, but dreams were plentiful. Her ambition had always been to create something lasting, not just wealth, but a legacy of giving. Marilyn described how, as a young woman, she had started a small business, which over the decades grew into a substantial enterprise. "The road wasn't easy, Jake," Marilyn admitted, her voice tinged with a mix of nostalgia and pride. "There were many times I thought I might fail, times when every decision seemed to weigh a ton. But with each challenge, I learned more about myself and the kind of life I wanted to build." Her gaze turned reflective as she mentioned her late husband, a man who had not only been her partner in life, but also her greatest supporter in all her endeavors. "Losing him was the hardest part," she said softly. "But he left me with a vision for our foundation that I've spent years bringing to life." It was a side of her he had glimpsed, but never fully understood. The depth of her resilience, the real struggles behind her composed exterior, and the true cost of the success he had once envied. Marilyn also touched upon the critical turning points in her career, including a risky investment that nearly cost her everything, but ultimately paved the way for her later philanthropic efforts. "Success isn't just about the wealth you accumulate," she explained, "but about how you use it to make a difference. It's about the lives you touch and the change you inspire." He began to see that his initial pursuit of wealth for its own sake paled in comparison to the fulfillment Marilyn derived from using her resources for the greater good. As they walked back to the house, the last of the sun's rays disappearing behind the trees, Jake felt a newfound respect and admiration for Marilyn. Her journey was not just one of financial success, but of building a legacy that could outlive her, a concept that was slowly reshaping his own aspirations and goals. As the autumn leaves began to change, reflecting the transformation within Jake himself, he found his days filled with a tumultuous mix of emotions and thoughts. The more time he spent with Marilyn and immersed in their shared philanthropic efforts, the more his initial motivations were called into question. No longer was he the man who walked into Marilyn's life with hidden agendas. He was becoming someone who valued impact over income, purpose over profit. One chilly evening, as they sat in the study surrounded by books and the comforting crackle of the fireplace, Jake brooded over the changes within him. Marilyn had just finished a call discussing a new initiative to support mental health resources in urban communities, a project she was passionate about and one she had encouraged Jake to lead. His mind, however, was wrestling with an internal struggle that was becoming harder to ignore. "Are you all right, Jake? You seem distant today," Marilyn inquired, her tone laced with concern as she watched him from across the room. Jake hesitated, then decided to voice his thoughts. "Marilyn, I've been thinking a lot about why I first came into your life. I was driven by greed, by a desire to secure my own future, and it's haunting me. Seeing the person you are and all that you do, I can't help but feel unworthy of being here, unworthy of you. Jake, we all start somewhere, driven by different things. What matters is the journey we take and the decisions we make along the way. You're here now, making a real difference. That's what's important." His nights were restless, filled with dreams of his past, flashes of his life before Marilyn, a stark contrast to the man he was starting to become. His days were spent in reflection and sometimes in avoidance of Marilyn, as if her mere presence reminded him of his initial deceit. The internal battle continued as Jake observed the profound effects their projects had on the community. Each thank you, each smile from those they helped, weighed both as a balm and a reminder of his past intentions. The dichotomy of his feelings left him feeling fragmented, caught between the man he was and the man he wanted to be. This conflict came to a head during a quiet walk through the garden, a place where Marilyn often found peace. "I'm trying to reconcile who I was with who I want to be," Jake confessed as they paused by the garden's fountain, the sound of cascading water mirroring his turbulent thoughts. "Transformation is never easy, Jake, but it's always worth it," Marilyn responded, her hand resting gently on his arm. "Let your actions now define you, not your past. And remember, no one does this alone. I'm here, and I believe in the man you are becoming." Jake felt a resolve forming within him, fueled not just by Marilyn's faith in him, but by his own desire to truly change. A battle of self that would shape his destiny in ways he had yet to fully understand. During a particularly grand gala event, hosted at a prestigious downtown hotel, the ballroom was aglow with golden lights and adorned with elegant floral arrangements that reflected the significance of the evening. It was an event to celebrate and raise funds for various philanthropic projects supported by Marilyn's foundation. Jake, now more accustomed to these gatherings, mingled among the well-dressed attendees, his demeanor a blend of quiet confidence and thoughtful observation. As the evening progressed, a guest speaker was introduced to share his testimony, a young man named Daniel, who had benefited from one of the foundation's key initiatives aimed at supporting education for underprivileged youth. Daniel, a recent college graduate, took the stage, his presence commanding yet humble. "Ladies and gentlemen," Daniel began, his voice clear and resonant, "I stand before you today because of the generosity and vision of one individual in particular, Marilyn. Without the scholarship provided by her foundation, I would not have been able to pursue my studies in engineering, nor would I have been able to break the cycle of poverty that had held my family back for generations." His story was not just one of personal achievement, but a testament to the power of opportunity and support. Jake listened intently from the back of the room, his emotions stirred by Daniel's words. The young man spoke of the doors that had opened for him, the mentors he had gained through the program, and his plans to give back to the community that had raised him. "Marilyn's belief in my potential changed my life," Daniel concluded, his gratitude palpable. As applause filled the room, Jake felt a profound shift within himself. Witnessing the tangible impact of Marilyn's work on Daniel's life brought a new level of realization about the purpose of wealth and influence. It wasn't just the clapping that echoed in Jake's ears, but the thumping of his own heart as he faced the depth of his transformation. Marilyn's work, once a means to an end for Jake, now represented something far greater, a legacy of change and possibility. The rest of the evening seemed to blur for Jake as he contemplated his own intentions and the kind of future he wanted to forge. The stark contrast between his initial approach to Marilyn and the genuine admiration he now felt for her mission underscored his internal transformation. This moment, sparked by Daniel's story, marked a pivotal point in Jake's journey, stirring in him a resolve to not just be a bystander in Marilyn's world, but an active participant in shaping a better one. As the event wound down, Jake found himself in quiet reflection, his thoughts lingering on Daniel's words and the broader implications for his own life choices. The gala, a dazzling affair meant to celebrate achievements, had unknowingly celebrated Jake's own turning point, setting the stage for decisions that would redefine his path forever. After the gala, a restless night ensued for Jake, with the echoes of Daniel's speech and his own burgeoning feelings intertwining in his thoughts. He realized he could no longer hold back the truth from Marilyn, not after everything they had shared and built together. The weight of his initial deceit grew heavier, urging him toward confession, and by morning his decision was firm. Choosing a quiet morning, when the air was crisp and the estate seemed to hold its breath under a veil of mist, Jake approached Marilyn in her study. The room, filled with the soft rustle of pages and the subtle scent of aged books, felt like the right setting for such a personal revelation. "Marilyn," Jake began, his voice hesitant but clear, "there's something important I need to share with you. When I first entered your life, my motives were not what you think. I was driven by greed, by a need to secure my own future financially. But what I found in you, and in this incredible work we've been doing, has changed me profoundly. These months with you have taught me about compassion, about true success, and what it means to make a real difference. I am not that man anymore who walked into your life with selfish intentions. I've grown, thanks to you, and I hope you can forgive me for the man I was when we first met. Jake, this isn't easy to hear, but your honesty speaks volumes about the man you are becoming. It hurts to know your initial reasons, but I see the changes in you, and I believe in the person you are now." Her acknowledgement of his change reassured him that their bond was strong, based now on genuine respect and shared values. Marilyn then stood and approached Jake, her steps slow but sure, and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let's move forward from here," she said, "not forgetting the past but learning from it. What matters most is who you choose to be every day you wake up." They walked through the garden, their conversation turning to plans for upcoming projects, but now with a deeper connection and trust, fortified by Jake's confession and Marilyn's gracious acceptance of his transformed self. Several weeks after his heartfelt confession, Jake felt a profound commitment to not only continue his work alongside Marilyn, but also to reaffirm their bond in a deeply meaningful way. He proposed the idea of renewing their vows, suggesting a small, intimate ceremony that would reflect their renewed connection and shared future. Marilyn, touched by the suggestion, agreed enthusiastically, recognizing it as a symbolic step forward in their journey together. They chose the estate's garden for the ceremony, where the autumn leaves provided a natural, vibrant backdrop. The garden was a place of many shared discussions and decisions, thus, it held a special significance for them both. The preparations were modest but thoughtful, focusing on the meaningful rather than the extravagant. Invitations were extended to close friends and family, those who had supported them and witnessed the evolution of their relationship firsthand. On the day of the vow renewal, the air was crisp, and the garden was quietly resplendent with fall colors. An arch made from autumnal flowers and greenery was set up, under which they would stand. The guests arrived, each one greeted personally by Jake and Marilyn, creating a warm, familial atmosphere. As the ceremony began, Jake and Marilyn stood together hand in hand, facing their loved ones. A local minister, who had known Marilyn for many years, officiated the ceremony. He spoke briefly but poignantly about the journeys that people undertake individually and together, emphasizing growth, forgiveness, and the continuous commitment required in love. When it came time to exchange vows, Jake spoke first. His words were sincere and reflective, acknowledging his past mistakes and expressing his gratitude for a second chance. "Marilyn, you have shown me what true strength and compassion are. Today, I vow not only to be your partner in all things, but to live up to the example you set every day. I promise to support our shared causes and to continue growing beside you in love and purpose. I vow to stand by you, to inspire and be inspired by you, and to continue this incredible journey together, wherever it may lead us." The ceremony concluded with a simple reception in the garden, where conversations flowed freely and laughter rang out, celebrating not just the renewal of vows, but the renewed spirit of their union. As the sun set, Casting long shadows over the garden, Jake and Marilyn took a quiet moment to themselves, reflecting on the path they had traveled and the path that lay ahead. This moment of renewal was not just a formal acknowledgement, but a heartfelt declaration of a future they were both eager to build, one step at a time, together. Following their vow renewal, Jake's commitment to their shared charitable work deepened significantly. He began to channel his energy and resources into expanding the foundation's reach, working alongside Marilyn to strategize new projects that could have a broader impact. Their collaboration brought fresh vitality to the foundation, harnessing both Marilyn's experience and Jake's innovative ideas. One of the first initiatives they launched together focused on mental health awareness, an area that Jake felt particularly passionate about due to his own transformative experiences. They organized community workshops, brought in experts to speak at events, and established partnerships with local clinics to provide services at reduced costs. Jake took a hands-on role in these projects, often speaking at events and sharing his personal journey of transformation and redemption to inspire others. Another major project was the creation of a scholarship fund for young adults from disadvantaged backgrounds. Jake and Marilyn worked closely to set up a program that not only covered tuition fees, but also provided mentorship and internship opportunities with local businesses. Jake was deeply involved in the selection process, meeting with candidates and sharing his belief in the power of education to change lives. As they expanded their efforts, Jake's perspective continued to evolve. He saw firsthand how strategic philanthropy could create lasting changes in communities. He and Marilyn spent many evenings discussing the progress of their initiatives, celebrating successes, and learning from challenges. These discussions often took place in their home, where they could relax in the comfort of their shared space, surrounded by the peaceful views of their estate. The impact of their work was becoming increasingly visible. Stories of individuals whose lives had been changed by their foundation's efforts were frequent, and Jake found immense satisfaction in this. His relationship with Marilyn grew stronger through their shared purpose, and his respect for her as both a partner and a mentor deepened. During this time, Jake also began to write about his experiences. He started a blog that chronicled the foundation's projects and his personal reflections on philanthropy, growth, and the importance of giving back. His writings garnered attention, bringing more visibility to their efforts and inspiring others to consider how they, too, could make a difference. Jake's transformation was now complete, from a man driven by selfish motives to one fueled by a desire to contribute positively to the world. His days were filled with activities that he found profoundly rewarding, and he often remarked to Marilyn how grateful he was for the turn his life had taken. Together, they planned for the future of the foundation, envisioning new ways to expand their impact and continue their legacy of service. Years after their vow renewal, the inevitable and somber day came when Marilyn passed away. The loss deeply affected Jake and all who knew her, for she had been a beacon of strength, generosity, and leadership in the community. Her passing marked the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new chapter for Jake. Inheriting Marilyn's fortune was something Jake had never wished for, yet it happened. Sitting in the quiet of the library where he and Marilyn had spent countless hours planning their projects, Jake reflected on all that they had accomplished together and the lessons she had taught him. Marilyn's dedication to helping others and her unwavering belief in the power of change had transformed Jake not only as a person, but also in his purpose in life. Determined to honor Marilyn's legacy and continue her mission, Jake decided to establish a new organization dedicated to aiding at-risk youth, a cause close to both their hearts. He envisioned this organization as a hub where young people could find not only immediate assistance, but also long-term mentoring and support. The foundation would be named Marilyn's Promise, symbolizing her commitment to nurturing potential and fostering hope. Jake worked with community leaders, educators, and social workers to set up the foundation. He ensured that Marilyn's values of compassion, innovation, and personal growth were embedded into every program they launched. The organization provided scholarships, job training, life skills workshops, and a safe space for young individuals to dream and grow. The inauguration of Marilyn's Promise was a poignant event. Many who had been touched by Marilyn's work over the years attended, sharing stories of her impact on their lives. Jake spoke at the event, his voice steady but emotional as he recounted Marilyn's philosophy of giving and her belief in the transformative power of education and support. As years passed, Marilyn's Promise grew, becoming a respected institution in the community. Jake found great fulfillment in his work, seeing the tangible results of their efforts in the lives of the youths they helped. His journey had come full circle, from seeking wealth and status to finding meaning and service to others. Under Jake's guidance, Maryland's Promise did not just survive, it thrived, expanding its reach and adapting to meet new challenges. Jake's story of transformation and commitment to Maryland's legacy inspired many, and he often shared their story to motivate others to pursue philanthropy and community service. As Jake looked toward the future, he remained committed to the work they had started together, ensuring that Maryland's legacy of love and generosity continued to influence and improve the lives of many. His path had been irrevocably changed by Maryland's influence, and he dedicated his life to advancing their shared vision of a better world.